couple weeks ago, I published a video comparing the differences between microdosing psilocybin mushrooms and microdosing LSD. In that video, I asked you guys if you wanted to see a separate FAQ video just about microdosing LSD, and a bunch of you said yes, so here we are. This video is going to be formatted in similar fashion to my magic mushroom FAQ video, in that every question is going to have its own video chapter. So if you're pressed for time, I would encourage you to just skip ahead to the section that interests you, although it'd be awesome if you could just stick around for everything. Starting with number 1, what is LSD? LSD is a synthetic hallucinogenic compound that was discovered in the late 1930s and became one of the most researched drugs in the 50s and 60s. Taken at standard to high doses, LSD is known for its ability to vividly distort the senses and produce an altered state of consciousness. Although this drug is traditionally used for recreational and spiritual purposes, there have been a number of notable people in the 20th century who have credited LSD for helping them achieve creative breakthroughs. These people include Steve Jobs, the guy who discovered DNA, and prolific writers like Aldous Huxley. In addition to all of that, there's also a growing number of people who use LSD in small doses to enhance their everyday lives. This practice is called microdosing, and it involves taking about 1/10 to 1/20th of a standard dose. At this level, you can benefit from the cognitive enhancing properties of LSD without the sensory altering setbacks of a standard dose. For this reason, microdosing has become a popular nootropic, especially among Silicon Valley types. Why do you microdose LSD? I've been microdosing LSD for over a month now, and I feel like it helps my creative process. Every video I make is the result of hours upon hours of researching, filming, editing, thumbnail making. I do everything myself, and to come back week after week to find the inspiration to do the same thing over and over again without sort of compromising on quality, that takes a lot of energy and creativity, and I feel like this process is made easier with the help of microdosing. How do you microdose? LSD comes in mainly 2 forms. There's a liquid form and a blotter paper form, which involves little tabs of paper on which LSD is evenly distributed. The paper form is the more popular version, so I'm going to address this question as though this is the version that we're dealing with. Here's how you measure it. There are 2 ways. The first way involves taking a tab and cutting it up into approximate microdoses. Please use tweezers because you don't want to handle the tabs with your fingertips, of course. Let's say you have a tab that contains 100 micrograms of LSD. For a microdose, you're going to want approximately 1/10 of that amount. To get that amount, cut your tab into even slices of 8. 1/8 of 100 micrograms is 12.5 micrograms. So you can stop there, but just so you know, 12.5 micrograms is on the higher end for a microdose. Feel free to cut it further into slices of 2, to get about 6 micrograms per slice. Place a slice on your tongue and hold your tongue to the roof of your mouth for 5 to 10 minutes and then swallow. That's method number 1. Method number 2 involves submerging your tab of paper into a precise amount of distilled water. Begin by measuring your distilled water into an even amount. If you're dealing with tabs of 100 micrograms, you'll want 100 milliliters of distilled water. I was going to say about, but you need a precise amount here. Avoid using tap water because it contains contaminants that can interact with the LSD. Next, pour your water into an opaque, resealable container, and make sure your container is 100% opaque so that it can block out light. Drop the tab of LSD into your container, seal it, and shake well for 2 minutes. Cover the container and place it into the refrigerator for 24 hours. The LSD will evenly distribute itself. When you're ready, use a dropper to pick up the precise amount of LSD you want. Squirt it into your mouth, swish it for 5 minutes, and swallow. Clearly, the second method is more tedious than the first, but the benefit of doing it this way is that you get greater precision. I personally use the first method because I'm lazy and I don't really have a need for perfect consistency every single day. My days don't call for that, but also because I'm lazy. How big is a microdose? 7 to 12 micrograms. How long do the effects last? 10 to 12 hours, so I would recommend that you take your dose early in the morning. The effects of the LSD will kick in within 20 minutes of ingestion, making it pretty fast acting. How does a microdose of LSD make you feel? It makes me feel energetic and extrospective. So not only does it stimulate me, but it makes me feel like I want to take that stimulation and channel it into something productive. Even when I walk my dog, I tend to notice the colors of the trees a little more vividly. Something you guys might not know about me is that I've been diagnosed with ADD. This is something that I take medication for, but on days I microdose LSD, I don't take my ADD meds because I don't feel like I need to. Microdosing helps me manage my ADD symptoms which has been a huge plus. Finally, I want to share a quote with you guys, but first I want to preface it with this. Please don't interpret the following quote in any religious terms. It doesn't carry any religious connotations, but rather this quote is meant to be interpreted in the abstract. This is the quote. If you take the lowest microdose, you start to see how much God loves you. If you increase your dose, you start to see how much you love God. If you increase your dose further still, the separation between you and God starts to dissolve. That first part of the quote, I think, captures the essence of microdosing. It's nothing too crazy, but rather it just ever so slightly makes me appreciate my surroundings a little bit more. And in that sense, I'm better able to stay in the present. How often do you microdose? Every 2 to 3 days. There is a type of protocol that is making its rounds on the internet. It's sort of taken on a life of its own. This is the protocol of 1 day on, 2 days off, otherwise known colloquially as the Fadiman Protocol. It refers to a guideline developed by Dr. James Fadiman, who is a leading expert in psychedelic research and the person who is credited for introducing microdosing into the mainstream consciousness. People seem to think that the Fadiman Protocol is the gold standard for microdosing. It turns out that this is not what Dr. Fadiman meant by it at all. I was listening to one of his lectures last week in which he clarifies this. 1 day on, 2 days off is meant to serve as a guideline for people who are just starting out. This means if you take a dose 1 day, you should consider taking the next 2 days off to reflect on any residual effects and to reflect on what microdosing did for you overall. Repeat this process for a month and see what happens. Effectively, there is no one way to microdose. Some people microdose on an as-needed basis. Others do it every other day. One person did it every day for a month and even wrote a book about it. So you have to figure out what's best for you. This is not a question I plan to answer because it wasn't in my notes, but I'm going to mention here that one of the differences between LSD and magic mushrooms is that on LSD, you don't really notice a tolerance developing as quickly. Whereas with magic mushrooms, if you were to microdose every single day without breaks, very quickly you'll notice your tolerance developing. My first week microdosing LSD, I was doing it every single day for 5 days and I didn't notice much of a tolerance developing. This is my anecdotal experience. Take it for what it's worth. Can you become addicted to LSD? No, because LSD is not chemically addictive. There is nothing about it that causes a physical dependency or a compulsion to use. To the extent that someone might favor the experience of being on LSD versus not being on LSD, you could potentially make the argument that LSD is psychologically addictive. But by that logic, LSD would be no more addictive than chocolate bars, video games, or French fries. It's a psychological compulsion, if anything, and not necessarily a physical one. There's even an argument to be made about LSD being anti-addictive in more than one sense of the word. Because taking large doses of psychedelics creates such a profound, mind-altering experience, you would be hard-pressed to meet anybody who chooses to do it every day. Something that's really interesting that I would love to explore even more in the future is the role of psychedelics in treating addiction. There are addiction clinics that use psychedelics in their treatment protocol to great success, and this is not an exaggeration. I even interviewed somebody here on this channel, somebody who used to run an ibogaine treatment clinic, and according to him, his efficacy rate was 80 to 90%, something like that. This person is also the current board chair of MAPS Canada. So if you haven't seen that interview, I would recommend that you watch it. I'm saying this now because when I first published this interview, I didn't have the number of subscribers that I have today. So chances are you haven't seen the interview. We had a fascinating conversation about psychedelic therapy, the promise of psychedelic therapy, and also what a path to legalization would entail. Next question. Is microdosing LSD good for depression and or anxiety? I've microdosed with both psilocybin mushrooms and LSD, and between these two substances, I personally believe that magic mushrooms are more effective for use in mental health treatment. In fact, you might have seen a recent study by researchers at Johns Hopkins University. According to this study, the magnitude of the effect of psilocybin-assisted therapy is about 4 times greater than that of conventional antidepressants. If you have generalized anxiety disorder, that is, anxiety without depression, LSD might make your anxiety worse, according to Dr. Fadiman. I would imagine that the mechanism behind this has something to do with the fact that anxiety is already a very very stimulating state to be in, and LSD just adds to that stimulation. Are there other contraindications to LSD microdosing? Dr. Fadiman advises against taking LSD if you are on lithium. People with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia are at a higher risk of experiencing adverse effects that include psychosis. Another group of people who should avoid LSD microdosing is people with red-green color blindness. According to Dr. Fadiman, red-green colorblind people can develop tracers when they microdose. So tracers are visual trails left behind by moving objects. And if you're going to see that while microdosing, obviously it defeats the purpose of microdosing. If you're on antidepressants, there doesn't seem to be a straightforward answer for you with regards to how safe or how effective microdosing LSD is. There is a 1996 study that shows that the effects of LSD seem to be blunted by being on antidepressants. But this study was not a double-blind clinical trial, and it only involved 32 subjects using self-reported questionnaires. On the other hand, Dr. Fadiman notes in one of his lectures that he doesn't believe that antidepressants on the whole makes microdosing less effective. It turns out many people have been able to ease the process of tapering off SSRIs with the help of microdosing. This is something Dr. Fadiman has observed. I would tend to trust his observations more because this is a person who has worked with hundreds of microdosers. By the way, we've been talking a lot about Dr. Fadiman, and he's sort of the hero of this video. I want to take this opportunity to plug his book. One second. This is his book, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide. And this is the book that is credited for introducing microdosing into the mainstream consciousness. This book was published in 2011. If you're interested in learning more about psychedelic therapy, this is a must read for you. It was very helpful for me, and I only wish that I had picked it up sooner. If you want to check out the book using my affiliate link, that would be amazing. I would get to make 3 cents from each purchase. It's not a lot, but it'd be nice. Anyways, everything is gonna be there for you in the box below. What are your tips for first timers? So let's begin with set and setting. Set refers to your mindset. Setting refers to your physical and social environment. With regards to mindset, have an open mind. Meditate before microdosing. At the very least, set your intention. Make sure you're in a steady frame of mind and that you're not trying to repress anything, because trust me, you can run, but you can't hide. With regards to setting, it's best to microdose when you don't have a bunch of stressors nagging at you, especially during the first 2 to 4 hours of your microdose. I made another video about optimizing your day for an ideal microdosing experience. That video talks about set and setting more at length, and if you want to watch it, it's going to be here or there, I'm not sure yet. Finally, a good principle for first timers to abide by is start low, go slow. If the standard microdosing amount is 7 to 12 micrograms, don't be afraid to start at 5 micrograms. You can always increase your dosage the next time around, and please don't microdose and drive. Last question. Have you ever had a bad experience while microdosing? Yes. There's one day on which I took too much, and it was about 12 to 13 micrograms. And you know me and my trusty paper cutting method. It didn't necessarily take me by surprise though. I was more so curious. I knew that this was going to be a big dose for me, but I was curious about how it would hit me. And there was a part of me that thought, well, if 6 to 7 micrograms works well, then why not take a higher dose? I think I got a little greedy without really preparing my mindset for that dose. And the result of that was I ended up just being really anxious that day. Not to the point of having a panic attack or anything, but for somebody who doesn't struggle with anxiety anymore to then have a bout of anxiety, that was unexpected for me, to say the least. Thankfully, it went away within 4 hours. I just had to wait it out. As a result of that, I learned that 12 to 13 micrograms is not a good dose for me, being my weight and my height. So that concludes my video. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. One more thing. If you have questions about sourcing, I can't answer them for you because I don't have answers. That's one thing, but also because I can't answer them for you. And also because I don't have answers for you. So please don't ask questions about sourcing. Other than that, if you have any other questions, I will try to get around to answering your questions, really, truly. Thank you so much for joining me for another video, and I will see you guys next time.